Hi guys, welcome back to Bunny Brick Designs. So today we are going to be modifying this pendant, and I made this off camera and I'll make another one just to show you how I made it. So I made a little purple flower inclusion with some greenery and some silver leaf. So I was making this because I wanted to figure out the right size that would go in here. So I'm going to make another one like this with you on camera. And we're going to do it together. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pick out some green. So these are pressed flowers. And I just need a little sprig of this green stuff. So I'm just going to pull a sprig out. I'm probably not going to need all of that. Probably just a couple of pieces. And then in my flowers here, I have some of these more purple flowers. We're also going to be using some out of here as well. So I'm just going to lift this up on a corner because this really should be in something so that it doesn't, I'm afraid of opening it up too fast and having all of this fly out. So I'm just going to pull out a purple flower here. Just because we're going to want this to be, and I still have a piece left, but we're going to want it to be, chopped up. I'm also going to open those up and take out a couple of little flower pieces here. And we'll put some of these back in because I don't want the lighter ones. I just want a couple of flower pieces so that we can do a few different things with it. You're also going to need some a resin cup. And I'm going to have to open my new bottle of resin just because I know my old bottle is completely empty. So when you buy bottles of resin, they come with this nozzle's completely separate. So you're going to open it up. It's going to have a metal seal. You're going to have to be careful of when you're puncturing it that you don't spill it everywhere. I've had it where, not all bottles, but some bottles when they're full, they go everywhere. And so I'm just going to start peeling off this top. And yes, I should be wearing gloves. So protection, primary PPE, gloves, mask if you're sensitive. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm just going to put a little bit of resin in here. Woo! And I'm going to drop the whole bottle. I don't need a ton. I just need a little bit like that. And we're going to, I got air bubbles in there. I'm going to get rid of those air bubbles real quick. So all I'm doing to get rid of air bubbles is just heating it up, moving it around a little bit. I'm just popping the air bubbles because I don't want air bubbles. And then I'm just going to take this and I'm literally going to use my fingers to pull it apart and just drop some of these into the resin and just kind of mix it up a little bit. Now you're going to see air bubbles in there. And so the reason why I'm doing this is because when you put these flowers in resin, they tend to have air bubbles in them. And so what I'm doing with this is I'm pushing these in there, mixing them around so that I can see the air bubbles, pop the air bubbles, get the air bubbles away from the flowers so that when I put them in the cabochon mold, those air bubbles are not going to be as prevalent in there. Now, the other thing you can do now that we've got that in there is I can also heat that to get rid of those air bubbles. So again, just heating it, moving it around. And if they all don't pop, that's fine. As long as the majority of them are out of the way, we can pick off the little ones that don't clear. So this is now nicely coated in resin. So I'm going to grab my mold. And so when I was trying to figure out what size, I literally put my pendant over the mold. This one, while it's pretty darn close, this one's a little bit big. So I decided to go with this one because it was the perfect size. So when it came out of the mold, so this is the size. When it came out of the mold, it will fit in there and actually sink in. So all I'm going to do is I am going to fill this mold with a little bit of resin. And then make sure there are no air bubbles. And I see a nice big one right there. And so you're just going to want to scoop that air bubble out if you can get it. And then I usually just wipe it on a paper towel. And I'm going to need a little more resin than that. So I'm putting in a little at a time. I don't want to fill the mold all the way up. If you get a big bubble like that, just pop it. That'll make it go away. And then the little ones are the ones that tend to stick in there. All right, so that looks pretty good. There's a little bit of resin in there. It probably could stand to have a little bit more resin. Just because I want it to be about halfway full. Maybe 3/4. And the reason being is because I'm going to set all of my inclusions in there and seal it up. And so I'm just tipping the mold just so I can see in the light to see if there's any air bubbles. And I don't see any more big bubbles. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to set in a few pieces of this flower. I don't want all of it, so I am going to use a pair of tweezers and my stick, and I'm just going to try to separate a couple of the chunks here if I can. And now you might not be able to do it with a stick. Oh, there we go. Piece broke off. And I'm just going to start setting that into my mold. Now you will get some air bubbles. It's inevitable. We can always pick those out later. So now that's nice and in. And I'm going to do a few more little pieces here of that. The next thing I'm going to do, oh, we'll just leave that guy there. He doesn't want to come. I'm going to pick up this flower and I'm going to put the flower in. So he's down below, and then I'm going to stick this leaf in. And so what I did is I got the resin on it, turned it over, and now I'm just doing that. The other thing I did in this one, I think after the fact, was I put the silver leaf in, and I think I want to put some silver leaf in before I put the greenery in so that I can get it down, way down low, and mixed in. So all I'm going to do is just take my stick and just kind of rub some silver leaf into spots. So all I'm doing is just finding little pieces, picking them up, setting them down in, and then poking them just gently under the resin. And this is UV resin, so this does not require a long time to cure. Now, if you want to make this with regular resin, you can certainly do that. All right, so now that we've gotten a few pieces of gold leaf in, because we're going to put more in after, but I wanted to get a few pieces in and get it pushed a little more forward. I am going to take and add some of the green. And so what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to like cut little pieces that I know will fit in there. Just little edges. So actually that's going to be too long. So we'll cut this guy right here. So I just cut off a little piece. And I'm just going to drop him in and literally push him down. This being so small, there's not going to be a whole lot of air bubbles on something like this. It's just too small for to have a lot of air bubbles. And I'm just going to move things around. I'm going to shift and adjust to get them in where I want them. And I think one more tiny little piece. And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. So that's tiny. And I'm going to put him right, I think, here. All right. So now we've got those in there. And while they're sticking up a little bit out of the resin, that's fine. I'm just trying to get them in there. I see an air bubble there that I'm just going to lift up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the rest of my flower and set that down here. Now there's a big air bubble there. Again, try to keep the air bubbles out as much as possible. And then I'm going to take a little bit more silver leaf and just put it around in the resin where I can. And while I know you're looking at this going, you're putting silver leaf over the flower on the back side. And yes, because what I want it to be is I want it to look as pretty on the back side as it does on the front, just because it's a clear pendant. Oh, come on. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying not to get the big piece like that. I'm trying to just get a little piece off like that, because I want some littler pieces up here by the tip. And now you will not know exactly what this is going to look like on the front until it's cured. So just keep that in mind. You're building this backwards. So whatever is at the top of your mold is going to be the back. So I'm going to cure this. And I'm going to just cure that for 2 minutes while I'm putting away my flowers here. Oops, and I left one out. I really don't like these things. You cannot get... You've got to find the little spot where you can get your nail underneath. There we go. To open, and it really does not make it easy. So there, that flower's back in. That's closed. I still have a piece of flower left I'm going to set aside, because I may make another one of these and do a pair of earrings to go with the pendant. I think that would look pretty. Keep in mind, anything that's got resin on it, like this I just dripped on the table, that will not cure until you UV light it. And I'll UV light just because these, again, I don't care about these towels, and I don't want the UV resin sticking to something it shouldn't. All right, so we still need more resin. And I am just putting away some things here while we're waiting. And so we're going to build this. So the next thing we're going to do, and we're going to get set up to do this while we're finishing up the pendant, is I'm taking some UV resin tape. And this is special tape that I bought for resin. You can use just any kind of masking tape or anything. I like this because it's somewhat see-through and the UV light will penetrate the back as well as the front. So I'm just sticking this down as smoothly as I can so that when I'm ready, I can put my pendant, I can drop this on and get it set up, and the UV resin is not going to come through the back. It's nice and solid. That's nice and smooth, and I have a nice smooth surface. Now we will have to do some cleanup on that when we're done, but that'll be fine. All right, so my cabochon is hardened, and it's kind of bumpy. It's not level, so we're just going to level this off now. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add resin until the mold fills up and it's nice and smooth. And I am going to just move it around, make sure it's all full. And then I am going to hit it with the heat gun for a second to get any air bubbles out of that. And if you notice, it did go over the surface a little bit, and you can just clean that up by just wiping a little bit of the resin if you've gotten too much resin on it. And I'm just getting out the last couple of air bubbles that have not come out with the heat gun, because I want to try to make this as clear as possible. So now I am going to put this back under for 2 minutes. And because it's clear, mostly clear, 2 minutes is fine, because it's going to get on the back as well as the front. Now, on this one, and I haven't finished it, there's some rough spots. We're just going to take an emery board and file it down. Just like this, just file the rough spots down until they're smooth. And you don't need to worry about it. Yes, you're scratching it. You'll have scratches on that. But because we're putting this in here and we're going to be sealing it, I don't need to worry about those scratches because those are going to get covered up with another coating of resin. Now, this is absolutely gorgeous for a little stone. I love this one. I can't wait to make another one and make a pair of earrings to go with that, because I think that will look really cool with maybe a bead like that, a white bead, some silver. You know, I'll play with it, but I think that would look cute as an earring. So we could drill the top, put a thing in there, or just maybe do a wire wrap bezel. We'll figure it out what I want to do with that, because I'm loving this little cabochon. So this is something you can do if you want to make just cabochons. You can get a mold, some UV resin, some inclusions, and make little cabochons to use in all of your jewelry. It's fairly simple. Well, I say it's fairly simple. It takes some practice to get all the air bubbles out. And we've got time. So Charlie has been doing really well adjusting to life here at home. He's been binkying around. I put a video last week. All right, so now we're done. This is quite warm, so when you take it out of the UV light, it's going to be very warm. And as you can see, I've got some bumps and things. If you got some really big pieces like that, you can just take a pair of scissors and cut with a pair of scissors like that. Or again, I'm just going to take, and I'm going to set my mold aside, I'm just going to take my nail file and smooth it until it's nice and smooth. Now you don't have to wait for this to cool down or anything. It's just going to be smooth. And so there we go. Now you have another pendant. It doesn't quite look like the first one. They're going to be slightly different. I'm going to use the first one that I made in my in my bezel there, because I think I'm going to use these because this has got more silver in the front and, you know, more purple. I want to make this one into earrings. This one has all of the purple down the bottom here, and I like that for this pendant. So now what I'm going to do, and you're going to have to be very careful because it's going to stick to the tape, and so you can use tweezers for this. You can use, you know, and I don't know if I have tweezers that will hold it. There we go. So I've got my clamp tweezers. Love these things. You're going to want to get it as close to the bottom of your tweezers as possible, and then set this down pretty much exactly where you're going to want it and let go, because that is going to, it's going to stick. Although you can move it around like I just did, it's going to be a little bit harder to move it because it's going to be sticking to the tape. All right, so now we're in, and I'm just sticking it down to the tape, and I know the tape came off. I'm looking at it. I'm trying to adjust it because that's not quite where I need it to be. And this is the tricky part, is getting this into trying to make it even and where I need it to be. All right, that looks, ooh, not too much that way. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the cabochon itself to make sure the cabochon itself is even, and it's just got to go over this way just a hair. Just a hair. There we go. All right, we're just going to do this because that's annoying me. And so I'm pretty picky about getting things perfect. So I wanted it perfectly in the center. There we go. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yep, that looks good. All right, so that's dead center. Now, the trick is making sure this is burnished to the, right down to the pendant. I want the pendant flat, and this is a little bit curved, so you're going to have to hold the tape up and just push. And so I just burnished it on there as good as I could. And now all I'm going to do is take resin, clear resin, and just go around and just put some drops on. Now I'm going to be going over the cabochon as well, which is why I was telling you don't worry about scratching, because if you scratch, we're going to be recoating it anyways with some resin like we're doing now. Try to make sure there's no air bubbles, there's no gaps in your resin, there's no lumps, there's no bumps. If you don't have enough resin, put another drop. It's going to be self-leveling, so it will self-level. But what I'm trying to do is create a nice smooth layer between the resin and the cabochon. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to harden this. So all I'm going to do is set that on my UV light and cure it for 2 minutes. The other thing is if you put your tools in resin, make sure you wipe them off really, really well. Otherwise, the resin will cure to your tools. I'm not so worried about like the toothpicks like these. Like I will wipe them off. But if these get resin cured on them, like that's got resin cured there, you can, you could still use it. It's not like it's going to flake off. I'm just more worried about these because I use these for seed beads and other things, and I don't want big chunks of resin stuck to my tools. I already got some stuck to this that I'm going to have to scrape off. So anyways, I think we're about done with the pendant, and so this one's going to be a short little video doing the resin pendant, and then coming up real soon, I have another unboxing for you because I got bargain bead box in. Hi, Velvet. Hi, baby. I got a bunny. I'm gonna need an under desk cam just to show you bunny feet, because she likes to get underneath there all the time. Anyways, it's gorgeous sunny. Well, it was sunny. It's not anymore here in Ohio. I've been busy doing all sorts of stuff, making things for Bun Fest while we're waiting for that resin to cure. I made these bunny candle holders. I've painted some glitter on them. I've got to finish sanding some of the extra glitter off, but I got to finish putting more glitter on and do a spray coat of varnish, but I think they're adorable. You can see the shine and the glitter. I can't wait to see those completely done. All right, our pendant is done. So I am going to now pull this off. And it did pull off a little bit of the finish on the metal. That's fine. As you can see, I've got one air bubble in there that I missed. But now I've got this nice embedded pendant. I see a spot that needs some touch up just because it's not quite level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush on, and I'm going to grab my, I don't want a liner brush, I want my flat brush here. And I'm just going to do a nice coating on that. Now, again, you can always coat over and redo something if you need to. I'm going to set that on there. I'm going to cure that for 30 seconds. I'm going to flip it over. We're going to do another coating on the other side. And the beauty of this is while the tape may have pulled off a little bit of the finish on that pendant, when I flip it over, I can just coat the back of that pendant with resin, and then the finish will not come off and it will not tarnish. So I am just going to coat that real quick here in a second. I'm going to give this a few seconds more to cure. It probably only needs 30 seconds. The other thing that I do, and I don't do this on camera, is when I'm done beading and doing everything, I will literally put these on under the UV light for 5 to 10 minutes and just leave them while I'm doing other things. That way I know they're fully cured. So this one, and see that's still tacky, so I'm going to put that back in there and let that cure. Yeah, so impatiently waiting for the resin light. So that's the other thing I hate, is impatiently waiting. So I've done, and I think I showed you these before, I made some earrings, some little stud earrings. I think they're adorable. They're both slightly different, so they're not completely symmetrical, but that's the beauty of having what's supposed to look like on these. They're supposed to look like real stone. So, all right, please tell me that's done. All right, that should be done. Yeah, that's done. That's nice and cured. Now I'm going to flip it over, And I am just going to take my brush and, ooh, I am just going to do a coating with the brush if I have enough resin on the brush, which I don't because I cleaned it the last time. I'm going to do a drop of resin. That's all you need to coat the back. And as you can see, I'm just going to go right over the edge of that metal where the coating picked up. And that will keep that from and I'm just going to do another drop. And that will keep it from tarnishing. All right, so I'm going to let that cure. I'm going to pause you because I'm going to let that cure for like 5 minutes. All right, guys, so it's completely cured. And I can see a little air bubble that got in there when we were doing the resin. So to try to fix that, and I may not be able to do that without my Dremel, I'm going to put a little, so I've got a little Dremel tool here. So I'm going to try to put a little hole in there. Okay, and then I'm just going to try to fill that in. So I just made a little hole that burrs into. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to put some resin in that and see if I can use because it's got an air hole in there. I've just got to figure out where the hole is to get because it's going to bug me having such a big air hole. So all right, so that went all the way through. Okay, now let's see if... Ooh, I'm dropping my tools here. It didn't go all the way through, but I felt it hit the hole. So I felt it hit. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to try to get that hole filled in. With resin. All right, I'm going to pause you guys for a second. Okay, guys, so the reason why I stopped the camera was because I needed to see just how much I needed to drill to get the hole fixed. And so what I needed to end up doing is actually drilling all the way through the cabochon. And so now I'm just trying to fill in the hole with resin and get some air bubbles out. A small air bubble's fine, but that was a pretty big air hole. So what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to fill in with resin, or refill in with resin, and then I'll cure it, and then we will do the other side like we were planning on in prior to me having to drill. So it's going to have a little cloudy area right there just because that is on the metal. but for the most part, it's going to be fine. I'm going to coat the whole thing with resin again, just to get it nice, smooth. And I'm going right up to the tip there. Going right to the edge of this. And I'm just making sure that I'm completely smooth. I have no gaps in my resin. Because if you have a gap in the resin, it will... it will peel away. Now I'm going to cure that. And I'm going to clean off my drill bit so that this little Dremel, it's like a hard L. It's not even a Dremel. I got this rotary tool. It's just a little rechargeable battery power. And it's got these little drill bits, which are great for drilling into resin things. It's great for if you have beads. So for example, if I were to have a stone bead that didn't have a big hole, I could drill through that with this little tool and make it so that I can get wire through it. I've actually taken beads that have been blocked and were able to drill through them. Great little tool to have in your toolkit if you don't have one. I think I spent $30 on it on Amazon, $35, $40. For that little tool. It's a non-brand name tool, so it it wasn't expensive, but it's battery powered, and that charge has lasted, God, almost a year because I don't use it that often. So I charge it up when it starts to, wind down a little bit, not work very well. I'll stick it on a charger overnight, and yeah, it does really well. So hopefully we've salvaged this, because I really don't want to have to drill out the cabochon, clean it out, and start over. Which I can, because I have another one here. But that's a pain in the butt. And so that would basically require me to Dremel the whole thing, scrape it out, sand down the pendant, and then put in a new one. Which I may do off camera. Just because you don't need to see me doing that. And yes, it doesn't always go according to plan. That's, the art of jewelry making. All right, so we are done with our touch-up. I'm going to pull this off here and just take a look. I mean, it's better. It just looks like there's air bubbles in there. It's a smaller air bubble. It's smaller air bubbles. It's just, let's see if we fill it in from this side, if we can make it look even better. So I'm just putting another coating of resin on this side, and actually doing that, I think, just made it much, much better. There's still a small air bubble I can see, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. So that's the thing. If you're doing something like this and you're going to be working with the resin, air bubbles are your worst enemy. Now, I could put glitter on the back of that. Now, I could, if I wanted to, cover up that mess. And actually, that gave me an idea to take some... see if I have a good color here. Like a light lavender glitter nail polish. And I'm just going to put a drop in there, because this is another thing you can do that will help hide your imperfections if you get air bubbles. So I'm just taking a drop of nail polish, if I can get it to drop. Taking a couple drops, and I'm just swirling it. So it's not going to be completely solid. I'm just going to swirl it like this on the back because that's going to help hide any flaws. And that'll probably look really, really cool on the other side. Yes. So that will help hide the flaws. Make sure that you don't get... And actually, before I do that, because this pendant's not even, I'm going to spot cure this with my UV light. So what this does is it does not really cure it 100%. It just hardens it up so that it's not going to move anywhere. So when I put it on the UV light, it will stay there. And now I've got glitter that I can see swirled in there, and that literally hides my imperfection. So that's perfect. I do see, however, that I probably should have had some more glitter down here, but that's fine. That looks really cool. All right, I'm going to cure this, and I'm going to go put this under the UV lamp for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. But there we go. You have, and it is tacky, but you have a little pendant that's cured, and it's florals within that, and I think that's going to look good once we get some of these beads in there. I could ultimately, and I was thinking about it, maybe taking on some of these solid spots or in these little grooves here, putting in maybe some purple glitter and doing some UV resin with purple glitter. Let me cure that, and I'm going to play with it. And I guess when I do the reveal, or when we use this in a jewelry piece in an upcoming video, you'll see if I decided to put, you know, because I think that would look cool with like purple, 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 you know, so that it's not just a plain pendant. And this is graded, so the purple resin would stick to that. But that I may do. Let me see how this cures up, and we may do that in another video, or I may just do that and then show you the final result. But playing with resin, so you could see if you get a huge air bubble in something, you can drill it and fix it. However, it's not going to be perfect. So anyways, let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.